Now, animals are something really interesting because they're around us every day. They're everywhere, you know, really small or just regular sized, I guess. But it's really interesting to think what goes on in the brains, and like so many other things that we see every day, you know, we get used to them. We get used to the way they look, they behave, they move. And so it's important for artists, you know, to start noticing things that you maybe not notice every day, like, you know, the way certain, you know, muscles move, you know, proportions, whatever. Just watch things, just watch nature. It's also important that when you study something or draw something, that maybe you do something that you don't do or see every day. Like in this case, something like this. I mean, if you see an elephant every day, like, I guess that's cool for you. Maybe you're a zookeeper or whatever. That would be a really cool job, by the way. A zookeeper for an artist. At least because you could then, you know, study these animals every day. That would be nice. Yeah. But with this one, I was just trying to capture, you know, the proportions, the way the muscles interconnect and whatnot, and also the shading. I always like to do my sketches first with graphite, and maybe I leave them like this. Sometimes I come back in with some ink, like I did in this particular video. Then, you know, start doing some hatching, some, you know, some shading. That can be also really a really important part of the sketching process. But even more important than, you know, like you see here, the ink stuff and the shading is, of course, you know, to first of all figure out the proportions, and think something like this would be enough the way it is right now. Like right here, the shading is not really necessary, except you want to really get better at it. And that's why I'm doing it, you know, just sort of exercising my ability to see light and shadow and create value. And even though I'm going in with ink, it stays a little bit rough. It's not that defined, you know. If I would really want to make it really defined and really, you know, detailed and whatnot, then I would, you know, spend a lot more time on it and be a lot more precise, use some finer pens and whatnot. But for something like this is, you know, just enough to get a basic understanding and feeling on how to render something, you know, to render something in a, so that it looks 3D like, you know. You sort of, you know, create a form, you turn the form, or whatever you want to call it. And in this particular photograph that I'm using as reference is, you know, the legs of the elephant. How do you call it? Not the front legs, but the legs in the back. I don't know the scientific term for that, for what you call it on animals. Like they have 4 legs, right? But what you call those legs? The legs on the back. I don't know. However, you know, you can see the skin sort of, you know, folding over the bones and whatnot. And just small stuff like this that you need to exercise. Yeah. Just to make it look like there's something underneath, and I hope you know what I mean. Now, I found this photograph of this elephant when I was browsing Reddit. And, you know, sometimes it's just small things like that that, you know, I think could be interesting and that spark an idea. Like, oh, I could sketch that. I could. Just sketch as much as you can, is what I'm trying to say. Just whenever something comes your way that you think is interesting or whatever, just go ahead and sketch it. And if you think it's, you know, too complicated or it won't look good in the end, it doesn't matter. No one has to see it. You can throw it away. But in this case, I was really interested in drawing that, in drawing what I saw in that photograph. And yeah, this is towards the end now of this one sketch, the first one I'm doing here of the elephant. And as you can see, it's not really defined, but it's way than enough. Excuse me. Yeah, it's way more than enough for a simple, relatively simple sketch, just to get a feeling for everything. Now the second drawing that I'm gonna do is something a little bit, I don't know, should I say funky or whatever. I mean, you're gonna see it. It's also something that I found on Reddit, and also something that I thought was kind of interesting, and to look at something that's naturally occurring and then trying to bring it on paper is something that, it's always a little bit of a challenge, and you need to challenge yourself as an artist, I guess. Now, as you can see, this is going to be a little mouse that's, I don't really know how it got there, how it got up. I mean, it probably got, up on a tree and then made its way on all the way on the branch to this apple. It's hanging down there and just munched right in there or something. It's a really interesting photograph, and I still wonder how the little mouse got into this apple without, falling down right with it. But a really, really cool photograph. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. And so the first animal that I drew, the elephant, obviously it's not really, it's not a mammoth anymore, so it doesn't have a lot of fur, but this little fella has. And so, don't just focus on animals where you can see the muscles and the bones really well, like in elephants, but also on little guys like that, where everything is covered in a fur. And then you can practice, how the light is reflected by the fur and everything. How the light is reflected by the fur and how it, how the shadow is created. I mean, the sketch is still pretty rough, but also just to create a feeling for the fur, basically, all the darker spots and the reflections and whatnot. Yeah. And don't just draw basic poses of whatever, of animals and people, whatever. Try to keep it interesting like that, so it won't get boring. And in the end, you don't just have made a good exercise, you were also able to, create something that looks pretty cool in the end. Okay. And so it's also important to have something to work towards to, just have a goal or something. Because then practicing is always, it's also fun. It's just not good when you just sit there and think to yourself, man, I really need to get better at the fur, or I really need to get better at the texture of the apple or the branch or whatever. That's not, art is fun, and if it's not fun, then you might as well not do it. So just do it if it's fun, and if it's not fun anymore, then just step away from the drawing and do something else, or just stop completely. So yeah, then play some video games, watch some Netflix, and get your brain on other ideas, read some books, do your homework, or go to work. I'm so glad I don't need to do any homework anymore because I'm working. So I have more time in the evening to draw and don't have to focus on studying for a test or doing homework or something like that. Doesn't matter now. I guess the video is over. Check out my Instagram, it's in the description. I post there every couple of months. I post a picture. Oh man, I should post way more often. Oh man, but okay. Yeah, check out the description, I have some links there. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more. And until next time, bye.